Hi there, what can we do for you today? Well, we're in the middle of a kitchen remodel and we need to start looking at some refrigerators. Oh, that's great, that's great. Thanks for coming in. We got lots of options for you. Is that so? Well, how much is it going to cost me to keep my food cold? Well, it's about a lot more than just keeping your food cold. It's about keeping it preserved. We need to find out what kind of food that you're buying, how much of it, how often you're going to be eating in versus eating out. There's a lot of things that go into choosing the right refrigerator. And I'll be glad to help walk you through them. Welcome back, Remodelites, to another episode of Remodel Media. I am Dave, and for the last 16 years, I've helped people put together kitchens, baths, outdoor kitchens, and various other home renovation projects. My mission in life is to eliminate regret, and I do that by bringing you the latest tips, tricks, and products for your home remodels. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and ring that bell for notifications so you never miss an episode. One question I've been getting a lot lately is, Dave, how do I know which refrigerator to pick? How do I make sure I pick the right one, I don't make a mistake? And I'm going to go through today the different types of refrigerators there are and where and when each refrigerator is best suited. First, let's get some vocabulary out of the way. We're going to talk first about standard depth versus counter depth, and we're going to talk about the fact that cubic feet has nothing to do with why you should buy a refrigerator. A standard depth refrigerator is any refrigerator whose body sticks out past the counter. If your body of your refrigerator is 24-25 inches deep and it lines up with your counter or your cabinet, these are considered counter depth refrigerators. If your refrigerator sticks out beyond this, these are considered standard depth. And there is no one standard measurement, although the measurement that I like to use for the body of the refrigerator is usually 24-25 inches for counter depth and usually closer to 28 to 30 inches deep for standard depth. Some pros and cons of counter depth versus standard depth. Counter depth buys you more room in your kitchen. It's less room in your refrigerator, but it's more room in your kitchen room to walk around. So especially for tight spaces, this can be a huge advantage. The counterpoint is that a standard depth refrigerator is deeper, can physically store more. However, I've had many customers, myself included, who would say that, you're kind of having to crawl over everything to get to the stuff in the back. So more space doesn't necessarily mean better space. I had a former manager that called it the cargo pants theory. If you get cargo pants with 8 or 10 different pockets, the only thing that happens is you fill your pockets. You don't actually give yourself more storage. Let's talk about freestanding versus built-in refrigerators for a second. Freestanding refrigerators are just that, refrigerators that are finished all the way around, that you can just stand them in the corner, you can put them in your cabinets, you could pretty much put them anywhere within their given specifications. A built-in refrigerator can only be built into cabinetry. It is unfinished on the sides and it is usually much taller. While freestanding refrigerators can range anywhere from around 65 to 72 inches tall, a built-in refrigerator can be anything from 80 to 84 inches tall, plus or minus a fraction. Generally speaking, the built-in refrigerators are not necessarily a higher capacity, but they are a more stylish look. Let's talk about top freezer refrigerators. These are found in the vast majority of apartments throughout the country. Your typical top freezer refrigerator is anywhere from 28 to 30 inches wide and anywhere from 65 to 69 inches tall. These are usually not the most energy efficient appliances. They usually meet the bare minimum standard, and their capacity at most is 18-19 cubic feet. My favorite top freezer refrigerator from Frigidaire is an FFTR 1821TS. That is an 18 cubic foot stainless steel refrigerator, top freezer, 30 inches wide, 66 inches tall, and about 30 inches deep. Once we move beyond top freezer refrigerators, your next level, side-by-side versus French door. Most side-by-sides and French doors are anywhere from 33 to 36 inches. Standard size is 36. And again, they are anywhere from 69 to 72 inches tall. So measure twice, cut once. Because a lot of newer models are coming out as 72 inches tall, but a lot of older models were only 69 inches tall. So make sure you have the space before you go buy a new refrigerator, assuming it's going to fit. So when I'm talking to a client about side-by-side versus French door, I like to ask the question, if I'm going to run into you at the grocery store, Where am I most likely to run into you? A place like Trader Joe's, Sprouts, Farmer's Market, or Costco, or Sam's Club? And the meaning of the question is, are you bulking up more on frozen food, or is fresh food storage something that is a priority for you? For example, with my wife's grandparents, when they remodeled their kitchen many years ago, they made the decision, and rightly so, to go with a freezer on the bottom. The reason they did that is because they rarely ate frozen food. They shopped almost daily and almost always ate fresh food. Now, when you compare that to my lifestyle, where I'm as likely to nuke a Hot Pocket or chicken nuggets as I am to eat a carrot, freezer space becomes more important to me, and in that sense, a side-by-side makes a lot more sense. One of my favorite side-by-side refrigerators, which is the one that I have in my house, is the GE GSS25 GS HSS. This one is about 36 inches wide by 70 inches tall and is a standard depth. Now, I've got lots of room in my kitchen. I don't need a counter depth refrigerator. And while I am climbing over things to get to stuff in the back, I can physically fit more food. So when I am feeding sometimes 7 people at a time, it makes a lot more sense. Now, a French door refrigerator, or a refrigerator with freezer on the bottom, is best suited for somebody who uses the refrigerator portion primarily. In other words, if you're buying mostly fresh food or produce and you are not freezing a lot of things, then having a French door makes a lot of sense. The one downside to a French door refrigerator is the drawer in the bottom will usually pull out a little further than the 2 doors at the top. What this means to you is you definitely need to measure before you go ahead and put in a French door. You want to make sure that at full extension, you could still get in front of the refrigerator. You're not running into the island. I've seen that happen before. And this is the reason a lot of folks who are doing French door also opt for the counter depth version to, again, give themselves more room in the kitchen. Probably my favorite, my most recommended French door refrigerator is from Frigidaire. It's an FFHD 2250TS. It is a counter depth French door, 22.5 cubic feet. So it's still a decent enough storage. But the reality is, as long as you're anywhere in the low 20s for a counter depth refrigerator, you're fine. There's not a whole lot of difference between a 21 and a 22 cubic foot refrigerator. Now, here's a secret that the appliance industry knows that not a lot of people do. The cubic footage on a refrigerator has very little to do with how much food it will store. I have seen 19 cubic feet refrigerators that are able to store more food than a 22 cubic foot refrigerator. The reason for this is the way cubic footage is calculated. Cubic footage is calculated when they take the refrigerator, they turn it on its side, and they see how much water it will hold. Cubic footage doesn't do you any good because you're not buying cubes of food. Now, the next category is built-in refrigerators. Now, if you're going to put in a built-in refrigerator, we are no longer in a $2,000 or a $3,000 category. We are now in an $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 category just to start, going up to probably well over $20,000 if you want to go there. So it's definitely a higher end option. While it does not specifically afford you a lot more storage, what it does afford you is more style and more design options on your refrigerator. Something like this Viking 42-inch 5 Series built-in side-by-side refrigerator going for around $10,000. It's 42 inches wide and almost 84 inches tall, so it's going to give you a lot more space. Now, the 2 main categories of built-in refrigerators are top compressor or column style refrigerators, or top compressor or bottom compressor. You see, every refrigerator system has a compressor and an evaporator. Now, it used to be only high-end systems had a separate compressor and evaporator for the freezer and a separate compressor and evaporator for the fridge. And what would happen is, if, let's say, years down the line, the refrigerator stopped working, at least the freezer kept going. Another benefit to a system like this is that you do not have air crossover. What happens with a single compressor, single evaporator system, something like your top freezer refrigerator, is the freezer gets really, really cold and pumps some of that cold air into the cool, moist refrigerator. But that's the thing, is a refrigerator is supposed to stay cool and moist and I'm sorry I have to use that word, but I do not have another word for it. Whereas the freezer needs to stay cold and dry. What happens when the moisture comes over from the refrigerator is you end up with freezer buildup and you end up with freezer burn on your different frozen goods, things like that. What happens with cold, dry air that pumps in from the freezer is you end up with produce that spoils much more quickly. Produce does well in a damp environment. So what you'll find is some models have adapted that twin cooling philosophy where they will have a single compressor, meaning if the compressor goes out, the whole fridge goes out, but they will have twin cooling or dual cooling systems. And this usually means they have separate evaporators, meaning that the air in the freezer is not the same air as the air in the refrigerator. And this ends up preserving your food much longer. So with top compressor built-in refrigerators, you'll usually see a grill along the top, and that's where the motor is housed. With bottom compressor refrigerators, they're usually flush at the top, but what happens here is very interesting to the interior space. You take two refrigerators that are identical, and the inside space, the top shelf is going to be much higher on a refrigerator that has the compressor at the bottom because everything is pushed up. You have a refrigerator with the compressor at the top, everything is lowered just slightly, so the bottom of the refrigerator is down lower physically than in a column style refrigerator. So a column style refrigerator is a refrigerator that is a fairly flush design with the compressor and everything being at the bottom. Popular models of this include the Miele, Thermador, and Fisher-Paykel. I hope that gives you all the information you need to make a good decision on your next refrigerator, and happy hunting. Thanks for watching. I hope you got some good information out of that episode. Go ahead and click here for more videos. Go ahead and click here to subscribe, and make sure you check out the description below for relevant links to some of the products that we discussed today, and leave your comments and questions down below because I love answering them. As always, I'll see you in the next one.